I found this on the Nextdoor app for my neighborhood. Someone had been chaining their dog up outside in the early hours of the morning and neighbors were becoming frustrated with its incessant barking. One user shared their father-in-law's solution to a similar dilemma and I found his compliance to be malicious enough to share with you guys. My father-in-law had neighbors that let their dog out early in the morning and he is retired so not always up at that time. They would chain it in the front yard for 1 hour or more and it would bark at every car that went by continuously. He talked to them about it and they got belligerent with him and started cussing at him and their response about the dog was "It's a dog." The property frontage is about 100 feet so the houses were close. He solved the problem since talking didn't work by working on his boat motor at 7:05 within the city ordinance time. He cranked it up 3 days in a row for about 15 minutes each day. The dog miraculously stopped barking. Apologies for the grammar mistakes and misspellings, I did not write the comment. This happened 1 to 2 years ago. It was the weekend so the store was filled with people. My next customer was a middle-aged woman with a short blonde haircut, eyelash extensions that needed refilling, etc. She paid with cash and when I was about to give her change, she decided she didn't want one of the items anymore. So I refunded her the item. I gave her the change from the first transaction, original purchase, plus the amount for the item she returned. She looked at the money I gave her and said it wasn't right. I explained the whole process. You gave me this much, then you return this item, the value of that item was this much, so this is what you get back. At this point she was adamant I was wrong and she was right. She did the whole dramatic sigh and eye roll thing and began talking very loudly, so other customers could hear, that I had given her the wrong change. I told her again that the amount I've given her was correct. One of my managers was nearby and told the customer that we can count all the money in the register to make sure the correct change was given. Side note, I have social anxiety, so being talked down to, in front of a whole line of customers, and then having her stand there and watch while I counted all the money in the register was horrible. I was shaking the entire time. As soon as my manager told her I had given her the correct change, the customer stopped looking at me and acted like I didn't exist. She directed her conversation only to my manager and made up excuses that she must have gotten mixed up. She then left the store, completely ignoring me. I guess an apology was too much to expect. This happened today and I need to get it off my chest. My mom and I went to the Golden Arches to get some quick breakfast sandwiches. I placed my order and she placed hers, each of us getting a different cashier. We ordered the muffins that come with eggs, cheese and ham. When I got mine it came out just fine. But, when my mom got hers, she didn't have any eggs on it at all. And before you ask, I heard her specifically say egg. The cashier confirmed egg. So, my mom goes to fix this. No problem, we're easy. Just give us 2 eggs to place on it and it'll be okay. They charged her an additional $2. The guy made her. She was frustrated and tells him it's always come with eggs. But she's being nice still. He tries to insist that he was doing us a favor and the charge was less that way. My mom explains that it's always come with egg and it was not more expensive. So he rings her up with 2 eggs and his eyes go wide. Whoa, it comes to the same amount. I learned something today. Guys, this was genuine surprise. He was not being sarcastic. How many people had he burned before? Now, she was already a bit frustrated but since the guy used the 2 for 4 special, so she thought, we still had a BOGO coupon. Please keep in mind this wasn't applied to the order, even though we did scan it didn't change the price or anything. So we understand but we are already frustrated. We go to order my dad 2 of these as well. Figured we would use the coupon and go. We go to the other cashier. I order 2 of them for the BOGO. Since the ham doesn't come with the 2 for 4. It says it's already been used. Blank stare. This woman has been watching the entire thing unfold with the eggs before. We explained that we didn't use it before. While you scanned it on your other order. My mom pulled out her receipt and showed her that she didn't get the BOGO before. Well, yeah. But you see it's in our system so there's nothing I can do about it. Can I speak to the manager? I am the manager. Calmly I offered, if possible just once she could ring up the 2 for 4 and just give us the ham instead of sausage. We can't make any substitutions. I'm frustrated because she acknowledges that the other cashier made a mistake and refused to make it right in any form. It may sound petty but this manager was incredibly rude. So I've had 2 girlfriends in my life, my current girlfriend of about a year who I absolutely adore and a girl who I dated for a little over 2 years in high school. It's been several years since the first girlfriend, and in that time the ex has moved on and recently got engaged. My current girlfriend and I just got back from a hiking trip, and to my surprise it looked from the engagement pictures that her new dude proposed at the same exact place we had hiked to, possibly even the same day we were there. In my astonishment I turned to my current girlfriend to show her the pictures, and tried to get her attention by accidentally calling her the name of my ex. To make matters worse, the whole thing happened within earshot of the rest of my family, who I'm sure will never let me live it down. This has never, ever happened to me before, and I've sure got some grinding to do to get back on her good side. TL, Dr. My ex got engaged in the same place I went hiking with my current girlfriend just days before, and in my haste to show her the pictures I called my girlfriend the name of my ex. A little over a decade ago I was answering billing disputes for a cell phone company. I was in a call center taking complaints that had been escalated from first-tier customer service. A woman called and said there was some kind of fraud on her son's phone, that it must have been cloned. Why? There were international roaming charges on it from Canada. She insisted that he's never been to Canada, that they live in Colorado and nobody in the family has even been close to Canada before. So, I start checking the account. Sure enough, there's international charges from Canada to the US on one line. I looked closer, the calls were all made in one weekend, and one of the calls made from Canada was to the mother's phone. Also, I checked the call data and going by the towers, apparently the calls were made from the vicinity of a ski resort. There are no calls on that line made from anywhere else but Canada that weekend, besides a few apparently on an interstate between Colorado and the ski resort. I had to tell this mother that I couldn't remove the charges, since it was clear that the phone wasn't cloned, it was taken to Canada for the weekend. That's impossible. He's never been to Canada, he was on a church trip to Branson, Missouri that weekend. He even called me from Branson when they got to the hotel. Well, I could tell he called her when he got where he was going, but it sure as heck wasn't Branson. Well, I wasn't allowed to call anyone a liar. If I said he was lying, I could be fired. Ma'am, I can't say where your son was, but I can say that his phone went to Canada that weekend. I reiterate what I'd found about the call records, and that going by the records and evidence, I couldn't remove the charges, and I couldn't declare that the phone was cloned. She was confused, and didn't know what to think. She hung up still bewildered as to what was going on. I checked, and for the record this was shortly before when you would need a passport to go from the US to Canada. I work in a furniture store. So yesterday, a customer comes in, she's holding an out-of-date ad magazine. She points to a pic of some living room shelves advertised for $199. I politely tell her that I can show it to her, but the ad has expired and she would have to buy it for the regular price, but I offer to talk to my boss whether he could give her at least a bit of a reduced price. She gets angry. The following ensues. Customer, look, here, it says it's valid until the 11th. Me, after checking, very politely, I'm sorry ma'am, but this clearly states that the offer for 30% off is valid until then, and that the ads are valid until the 4th. Customer 2, but we drove all the way here. Me, I am really sorry, as I said, I can talk to my boss. After doing so, I offer them a discount. Customer 1, but we want it for the ad price. It clearly states it here. Me, ma'am, as I said. Explains it again. Customer 2, this is outrageous. Customer 1, this is a shame to trick innocent people like us. I will never shop here again. Me, okay. Having given up, I walk away as they stomp away angrily. I start making my way to another customer, when I hear customer 1 say this to customer 2. Look. She's looking for another victim. Sarajevo 2000. It's late afternoon, likely a Thursday or Friday. Colonel T and I are finished with our day office and are back at Ilidza compound working in the CFLO's, Chief Factions Liaison Office, Brigadier L, office working on the classified NATO network. General L walks out of his office, calls attention to him and says, "Gentlemen, I think we should have fish." Being curious, I asked his military assistant, a French colonel, what he meant. His MA told me that the brigadier enjoyed going to dinner, not on base, once a week and had heard of a fish restaurant in Pale. Now he and his staff had to figure out how and when to get all of us there sometime this weekend. Pale is not far from Sarajevo, about a 30-minute drive, but impossible during the war. It had been the Serb headquarters during the war and much bad activity had originated here. My only experience there had been to a French safe house, undercover observation post, that was tracking known Serb war criminals. My only takeaway from that was that while the French were issued wine in cardboard boxes, with straws, the wine was not good. Back to fish. The next day we were informed that we were to report the next afternoon in front of the headquarters in civilian clothes. So, we did, and there was a short bus waiting for us with a British soldier as driver. We departed, drove north through Sarajevo and then east towards Pale. We drive around a little while the brigadier consults a map and gives directions. We finally climb a steep hill on a rutted dirt road and arrive at a large restaurant that appears very nice. It is. It's summer and the restaurant, which has inside dining, is not open. Rather, around a large pond are several covered dining areas where we are directed. Trout is the fish du jour, as well as every day, and we order trout, wine and veggies. While we wait, we wonder and find that the owner has an ingenious setup. He has 3 ponds, 2 of them are further uphill. The farthest is full of baby trout, the second teenage trout, and the one where we are awaiting dinner is for adult trout. The ponds feed into each other when the owner decides it's time to move his live crop closer towards adulthood. Dinner will obviously be fresh. Dinner and wine are served and the trout is excellent. What a pleasant experience, a beautiful day, a quiet, peaceful dinner in a wonderful setting. All this in the town where so much evil was planned and inflicted on the rest of Bosnia. Monday we will go back to work trying to ensure that these people will not start killing each other again. Thoughts of this accompany me back during our ride back to Eliza compound. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years, but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. Malicious compliance with a happy twist. My wife's birthday was a few days ago, so we had some cake left over. I took the cake out after dinner and cut it into 3 mostly equal pieces. I ain't perfect but they were close. My 4-year-old daughter then starts crying that she wants 2 pieces and wants me and my wife to share a piece. We go back and forth as this isn't going to happen. I put the pieces on plates and she is still crying and insisting. We try explaining that the cake will melt if she doesn't eat it, etc. Finally I get sick of it and say, "You want 2 pieces, no problem." I take my spoon and cut her cake piece in half. She stops crying and says, "Thank you so much Daddy, now I have 2 pieces." My wife and I look at each other dumbfounded and burst out laughing. TLDR, daughter insists on 2 pieces of cake. I cut her piece in half in front of her and she couldn't be happier. Hi all. As I don't get the TV to myself on Sundays much, I was just scrolling through and found the TV show My 600 Ib Life, which some of you have mentioned. No direct criticism of the people trying to fix themselves. However, I've noticed every time one of the fat people is interviewed or talking about how they're doing, they're sipping from a soda from a fast food place. Now if you're trying to diet, wouldn't it be hard to go to McDonald's or wherever and just order soda? Or are they actually buying food there too? It's also frustrating to me when one of the fat people cries on camera and says we just don't have the room to cook healthy. And I see their kitchen and it's like, huge. When I go into a store, I don't care if the employees are joking around with each other. I don't care if I can see that they were eating or drinking something. I don't care if they were reading or studying or even playing on their phone in their spare time. I don't need to be greeted by everyone as soon as I walk into the store. I don't need to be apologized to if they don't carry something. I don't need to be checked on every few minutes. And I definitely don't care if they're allowed to sit. You can treat customers like gods, and they'll still find something to complain about, so why not let us employees loosen up a little? IG equals idiot guest. Me equals me. And hashtag X200B. Me, a decent hotel, my name is JJ, how can I assist you today? IG, I need 2 rooms for Friday night and they need to be adjoining. Me, I do have 2 rooms available for Friday. I can put in a request for adjoining rooms, but it is not guaranteed. IG, why not? Me, well if the guest in that room extends, or if there's an unexpected maintenance issue, things like this prevent us from being able to guarantee you a connecting room. IG, well we are not going to stay if we can't get adjoining rooms. You need to figure this out. Me, this is my moment, lol. Well in that case I recommend you don't book with us because I wouldn't want to falsely promise you a room and then you be disappointed if you don't get it. IG, is your manager there? Me, yes, but he's busy. Anything else I can help you with today? IG, I want to speak with your manager now. Me, no. Click /. I work at a pizza store. In the last hour or so at work I do the dishes, which is all hot and steamy, and also not too far from the oven. I am quite oily and moist by the time I get home. Tonight, I got home at 12:15 a.m., and I went for a shower at 12:30. My roommate, who is maybe 50 or 60, has complained about the shower being used at 11:15 before, as her room is directly below the shower, but I just feel like as I am paying rent and working late I should be able to use the shower that I pay for when I get home. Am I a bad roommate? Once upon a time, 5 minutes ago at my hotel, I got a phone call from a woman who was clearly suffering from laryngeal cancer. She had an incredibly robotic voice sounding a lot like she had a breathing tube in. The following is our odd conversation. And hashtag X200B. Woman, hi, do you allow smoking in your pool area? Ophelia, no, ma'am. Woman, shocked and appalled. She has not left the 1970s /. You're kidding me. Ophelia, well, ma'am, it's an indoor pool. Woman, seemingly satisfied by this answer. / Can I smoke in my room? Ophelia, a beat wherein I think back through recent state history. / No, ma'am. We're a no-smoking hotel, and our state hasn't allowed smoking indoors since 2007. Woman, frustrated, because she's gotta smoke. / Well, can I bring my cat? Ophelia, no, ma'am. We don't allow cats, we only allow service animals. Woman, upset now. / Where is my cat supposed to stay? Ophelia, I don't know, but not with us, ma'am. Now, I know that was probably the wrong answer to give, but I'm not 100% sure what the right answer would be in this case. / Woman, you're going to kill my cat. He's going to be alone. The cat will die and it will be your fault. Ophelia, I'm very sorry. And hashtag X200B. With that, she hung up. I wouldn't be surprised if she came in later saying I said she could do X, Y and Z with her cat and a lit cigarette. Wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last. One time I, 30-ish F, had a job in a not-so-great part of town and at the time I did not have a car, so I had to take the bus. I had to wear business casual for work, so sometimes I stuck out at the bus stop compared to the typical pedestrians in the area. Not once, but twice I was mistaken for a prostitute. I was standing at the waiting one day when this guy pulls into the parking lot behind the stop and asks for a cigarette. I give him one and think it's strange that this guy in his brand new car has pulled over to ask for a smoke. He then sit in his car and ask me a few times if I want to ride somewhere. I'll be honest, for a few seconds I thought about it. He was very handsome. When he asked again after the first no, something clicked and I didn't care if he was hot. I walked off. The second time a guy pulled in the same parking lot and just asked me a few times if I knew where a bank was. Could I show him? Come to find out I was kinda singling these guys by letting a bus stop and not get on. This was what local ladies would do while working. I was just waiting for the next bus that actually took me home. The idea of people leaving their lives to start something completely new has always fascinated me. Particularly the motivations around it and what would make them do such a thing. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries in the case of and how he presumably killed his family because he was ashamed of his dead, and how he hid the bodies and left really was something else. Particularly how he timed the whole thing to fool authorities into thinking there was nothing wrong at the house and then again into believing he had killed himself. I wonder what he is doing now. Are there any other cases similar to this? I know this happens a lot with people who are in witness protection and they get relocated, but I feel like this happens a lot of a variety of different reasons. I guess I am looking for cases where the people didn't necessarily kill their family or do something malicious, but where people have left their life behind and took on a new identity. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about TJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. The pharmacy retail store I used to work at also had a photo department where I worked at a lot of the time. By the time I was hired they had stopped processing film in store, so we were basically just a glorified print shop. There were a couple touchscreen monitors for customers to use so that they could upload photos and create an order for us to print. About half of the customers I dealt with had no idea how to use this machine, so I would walk it through with them until they understood. One day I was helping a woman at the monitor. English was definitely not her first language, so I was making sure to ask multiple times if what we were choosing to order was what she wanted. She said yes, even after I would point at the print size and amount of each print she had told me to order. I placed the order and started to print it. Her order had a few 4x6 and 8x10 pictures, and 8x10 photos were around $5.99 each if I remember correctly. Most people did not pay attention to the pricing until checkout, but when I help people at the monitors I make sure they look at the total amount they have to pay before placing an order. That way they stay happy and we don't waste materials printing out photos people don't want to pay for. This lady still wanted all of her photos even though she was going to be paying quite a bit for her 8x10s. In the case there is a mistake made when printing, or if someone does not want a certain photo, we do not simply throw it away. There is a special box we place the photos in that gets sent to be shredded in order to protect the privacy of customers. So after I print out the lady's photos I bring them up to the counter and let her inspect them before paying. L equals lady, me equals me. L, I did not want these, pointing at 8x10 photos. Me, you don't want any of them? I had made sure when ordering them that this is what you wanted. L, no, I don't want. Only these, pointing at 4x6 photos. Me, okay. I'm a little frustrated at this point because I spent a lot of time making sure we understood each other. I just blame the language barrier and start to adjust her order so she is not charged for the 8x10s. Then I take the 8x10 pictures and put them in the shredder box. L, what happens to pictures if I don't buy? Me, they get thrown away to be shredded. L, I pay 1.50 then. Me, so, you do want the pictures? L, yes, but I pay 1.50 since they getting thrown away. Me, no ma'am, we do not haggle prices here. If you want them you need to pay full price. Lady ends up not buying the 8x10 photos. I couldn't help but think that the lady's plan the entire time was to try and get those photos for a significantly cheaper price. No. I work at a financial institution. People refuse to wear their masks despite the mandate requiring them to. I'm not allowed to tell them to put one on, and people still lick their fingers to grab things, lean on my desk, and purposefully step to the side of my plastic shield to speak to me as if I can't hear them. No, I'm not happy. I'd rather you wait in the drive-thru and keep your hands to your goddamn self. Now I have people who can see me wearing a mask and attempt to make fun of me for it, as if I'm not going out of my way to try and keep them safe from something they're too stupid to realize they could die from. I hate people, this job, and everything about what pandemic has shown me about the world. At least this is my last week here. A guy came into our branch and asked my manager for a copy of a statement to be mailed to him. My manager was with a customer but took the guy's info and said he'd have it sent out ASAP. He entered the request into our computer system which would put the request into a queue, and between that and getting it out to the US postal system it took a few days. The man was livid when he saw the postmark date. He came in to complain and again needed another statement, and yet again was in a hurry and couldn't wait. Our manager did the same thing, with the same result. The man was so angry he started sending faxes to corporate. Don't ask me why. Yes, it's stupid. Realizing, I'm assuming, the guy was a wacko, it fell on deaf ears. Well, the guy then decided to turn up the heat and started sending faxes to the Federal Reserve and to the comptroller of the currency in our region, then would send a fax to our branch's fax number showing those complaints he lodged, and included every fax he had previously sent out to anyone along the way. The faxes kept coming, and because it included every previous communication it got longer and longer. At one point, because it included every header to every previous fax, which showed those previous headers, and so on, each individual page became so long that each page took up 2 sheets of paper. It was not uncommon for us to arrive at the branch in the morning and have several hundred sheets of paper lying on the floor, with an empty paper feed, or if it was during the day it would tie up our fax line for an hour or two. We kept begging our market for help but they ignored us, until one day he went to another branch and they gave him the name and fax number of our market leader. They started receiving the same faxes that we were. They got corporate involved who sent him a cease and desist letter, which he ignored. Not long afterwards he received a letter telling him he had 30 days to close his accounts or we would do it for him. The faxes stopped after that and he was gone. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. Some years ago I found a tiny corner of a piece of notebook paper, and written on it in childish scrawl "I hate you." I asked my oldest daughter, pretty sure it was her printing. She explained she'd been in the back seat, telling her little sister she hated her. She was told by my husband to stop saying that. Being very compliant, she stopped. And she wrote it to her sister instead. Having been a pretty mean-mouthed kid myself, it was all I could do to not let her see me smirk. Like many sisters, they came to be each other's most trusted and loving ally as they grew older. I saved that little ripped-off corner of a page for a long time but don't know where it is now. I hope I find it again. First post here, so hopefully I'm doing this right. Shouldn't be too hard, right? Okay, so here's the story. I work at a convenience store in South Texas. It's like a mom-and-pop type shop, so it's a single store, not part of a franchise or whatever. I've been working as a cashier here for almost a year. It'll be a year in August. This happened about half a year ago or so? Honestly, I can't remember exactly when. I wasn't the cashier involved, but it happened when I was working. Anyway, I come back from break, or out of the bathroom or something, and I see one of our regular customers yelling about something. He's a tall guy in his late 30s, early 40s and goth. Think, Marilyn Manson light. He dresses in the same style. I've seen him in the store many times and rung him up a few times as well, but never really spoke to him. This particular day he's yelling loudly about some cigarettes. He said they expired and he wanted a refund. At our store we are not allowed to do exchanges or refunds for tobacco products. The only exception is if they come back within like maybe 10 or less minutes after buying it, and it's unopened. And even then we don't really do anything like that. So I guess it depends on the case, but I digress. So my boss tries to see the date at the bottom and can't see what it says, it's scratched off. Then he asks the guy if he has his receipt. He says no. So my boss is saying there's nothing he can do, but he's willing to give the guy another pack of the same cigarettes, for free, or maybe a lower price? Wouldn't be a refund or an exchange. Sounds like a deal, right? Not according to this guy. He started yelling about calling the cops on us and getting us shut down. My boss was done at that point and told the guy to go ahead and do it, but whatever he did, he'd have to leave the store before he did so. Then the guy said this: I'm going to call the searches for word ASPCA on you guys and you shut down. I was laughing so hard after he left. He never did call anyone and he hasn't been back since. I work at a supermarket as a personal shopper. That entails going out into the store with a bunch of bins and getting items from the shelves for customers to pick up. It's normally pretty boring, but yesterday, something changed. I was getting some milk for customers and this woman came up to the shelf next to me. I didn't notice her at first, just doing my business, scanning items, bagging them, and putting them in the bins. After a bit, the lady spoke up. "Thank you for making the shelves beautiful," she said, causing me to turn to her. There weren't any other associates within speaking distance, so I knew she was talking to me. "I know you all are working very hard, so thank you," she continued. I wasn't sure what to say, so I said something along the lines of, "You'll want to thank the associates that stock the shelves, I just take the items down." She continued to thank me for my hard work, being very sweet the whole time. Soon, I had to leave to continue my job. Before I left, she said, "Have a beautiful day." That last part really made me smile. I kept smiling all the way back to the back room to drop off the bins. If that lady is somehow reading this, thank you for making my day. I've read about and been interested in a lot of theories over the years about the shortwave radio station from Russia which broadcasts at 4,625 kHz. It is a numbers station called UVB-76. It's known as the buzzer as its primary feature is a repeating buzz tone that goes on and on for 24 hours a day and is only ever interrupted by random voice messages which go back to the buzz tone after the messages have concluded. It's theorized that the purpose of the buzz is a channel marker to keep the frequency from being used by others while a voice transmission is not taking place. Evidence suggests the station always has an open microphone as noises can be heard in the background of the buzz tone once in a while. This shows that the source of the buzzing must be external and placed in front of the open microphone. What I've never heard discussed and what often spiked my curiosity is what exactly is the source of the buzzing itself. It's a pretty eerie but cool sound to hear and it's been going since 1973 with the current buzz at least since the 80s. Whatever it is isn't being modulated internal to the transmission signal as again there's an open mic on the input. Could it be an electronic oscillator circuit fed to a speaker to produce the pulses of buzzing tone? A tone generator of some sort? A tone generator along with an oscillator or some sort of way to interrupt the tone at the intervals observed with the buzzing such as with a relay? Or is the buzz tone generated mechanically by some sort of device? It has an interesting sound to it that I've never heard replicated exactly the way it sounds by digital circuitry. It almost sounds faded and a little distant of a sound. If it's an electronic circuit, do you think it's an analog vacuum tube or transistor-based oscillator type of circuit, or rather a digital circuit? Russia has been known to use a lot of older equipment even up to recently, but especially in the era that the station was originally from, and a lot of their equipment and military equipment ran on vacuum tubes. The transmitter moved location fairly recently, and I'm wondering if they are still using the same buzz-generating device as when the station first operated. Just curious if anyone else has wondered the same or could propose a theory. Link to info about the station. The station can be heard here. The link is set to automatically tune the receiver to 4625 kHz. Make sure it's set on USB mode, which it should be by default. Sometimes, depending on the time of day, the station can be inaudible or suppressed by noise/interference, but usually it's clearly audible. So right before COVID hysteria kicked in, I, F26, decided to lease a condo with a slightly older woman, F35. I signed a 6-month lease, which she implied we could renew at the end. In the beginning, she seemed friendly and relaxed even as the reality of the pandemic kicked in. Now after 5 months, she approached me one evening to let me know that she is now ready to live alone and would like to use my room as a guest room for her family. So I will need to move again. Although this saddened me, I thanked her for giving me at least a month of advance notice. Later that evening, I texted her, offering to pay higher rent or change anything that may be bothering her if she is open to renewing the lease. No response. She sees me the next day and says hello, continuing to ignore my text. I decide to drop it and start apartment searching for a new place. Now she was living here first, and the kitchen and living room is generally full of her furniture. At one point after I moved in, I added a pretty candle to the centerpiece of the dining table, and more recently, I added a tiny fern in a decorative pot. I saw this as my way of adding a small personal touch to the shared space. I'm still living here for the next month and a half until my lease expires, but she has started moving my things out. She rearranged the whole dining room, moved the recycling bins and trash cans to new locations where I had to search for them, and put my decorations in a cluster on the edge of the kitchen counter. When I saw this, I thought maybe she had set them to the side to wipe the table down. So I calmly moved them back. An hour later, I saw she had moved all my things onto the counter again. I will be moved out soon enough, so I just took my things back into my bedroom, but it made me feel so disrespected. Part of me was tempted to be petty and put the candle in another, perhaps more inconvenient location, but I'm trying to be a better person than that. The entire time I've lived here has been during a pandemic. I've cleaned up after her pets when they repeatedly thrown up, kept the kitchen clean, taken out the trash and emptied the dishwasher daily, without ever complaining. Is it wrong of me to want to have a few small personal touches in the common room? We split the rent equally. Is it even worth it to say anything to her? Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. Obligatory mobile device usage warning here. I found out the other day from my manager that a co-worker tested positive. She told me to not tell anyone, but I felt like it wasn't right of her to try and hide something that's so important. I told a couple of my fellow co-workers who also worked with the co-worker who tested positive, the day before. They were able to pay for a test that gives you same-day results, and it got back to her that I was telling them this coworker tested positive. Today she pulls me into the office and lectured me about how she told me to keep quiet and how I put her in a hard place. I apologized but told her people had a right to at least know that their coworker tested positive. Especially those who worked with them. She didn't schedule me for the whole week, which I'm not worried about. But a couple hours later at the end of the night she texted me asking me to work a shift tomorrow. But I told her that I couldn't. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the co-worker's name. But I still feel that people have a right to know if someone they interact with on a daily basis tests positive. TLDR, I found out a co-worker tested positive, so I told some of my other co-workers that a fellow co-worker tested positive. My manager got mad at me for telling people about it when she told me not to say anything. But then she still asks me to work a shift. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, And I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. Third case. Charles Appleby, 48, of Staines Close, East Hull, went missing in 2001. The last trace of him was his yellow bike, which was later found on the Humber Bridge. What was most concerning was that a large pool of blood and a knife was found in his flat. At an inquest into his disappearance, Assistant Coroner David Rosenberg recorded an open conclusion after being unable to determine a cause of death. The court heard how Mr. Appleby, known as Charlie, had been through a difficult period at home over the Christmas and New Year of 2000-2001 and had moved out into a flat. On March 12, 2001, Mr. Appleby didn't turn up for work on time, which concerned his colleagues as he was usually punctual. Police were called to his flat and found a yellow bike was missing. They also discovered a knife and a pool of blood in the house, with the bike later found on the Humber Bridge. Police said there was no physical evidence Mr. Appleby has been alive since the time of his disappearance. So picture this: it's 10 minutes before close at that 3-letter store and our computers go offline. I'm frustrated, but I tell the 2 customers in line the situation and that they will likely not be up before we close. They're frustrated as well but accept they'll have to come back tomorrow. Now 5 minutes later my program that allows me to access all my patient information comes online but my registers are still down. Now with 5 minutes still closing and my registers still down in walks grumpy guy, GG. Me, welcome to 3-letter store, unfortunately my register went down a bit ago and I can't sell prescriptions right now. GG, can't you at least check to see if it's working on the other computer? Me, thinking yes I can look up his info and exactly where his prescription is but I can't sell it to him so I'm going to avoid this argument. I'm sorry but this computer system is still down too. And I doubt it will be up before we close in 4 minutes. GG, it's my rescue inhaler. You expect me to go without my rescue inhaler all night? Me, well you clearly waited until you were completely out and went to a pharmacy right at closing so I think you'll be fine because it's not a priority on your end. You can go another 3-letter store and they can fill it there sir. GG, no they're all closing too. Me, sir there are 24-hour stores near here. GG, then I'd have to drive. Me, of course let me give you this prescription for free now so you don't have to drive. God forbid. Just kidding. I gave him a blank stare and was like too bad oh well. So he stormed off. Guess who came by at 2 p.m. to pick up his prescription today? Guess he made it through the night. At my last job, and now in my current job, I would have these mandatory performance reviews that include my performance goals for the upcoming year. When I sign up for these, it's with the express purpose of preparing for a merit increase at the end of the period. This never happened in my last job because they were always making bad decisions that left them scrambling to make ends meet, much less try to give people pay raises. In my new job, of course, there's been an impact from COVID, So I was told there would be no merit increases this year because there's no money available. Okay, I get it, and it's fine because I wasn't eligible this time around anyway, but for next year, they're already saying no raises at the end of this year, but they still want us to do the performance reviews and goal setting. Of course you want your workforce to continue to improve and to meet the demands of the job, but I'm doing that. I just get a kind of minor issue with putting in the effort to do the performance review, but with no payoff for me in it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. In my last job, it was completely pointless because no one even cared, not the employees, the bosses, or the managers. It was just a box you had to check, but here, it's like you're supposed to be all chipper about it like it's going to mean something. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of you 11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. This happened just a few minutes ago. I'm home now. It's getting hot, and even in weather like this I would usually wear a jacket or a long-sleeved shirt. Unfortunately, I'm at the holiday house currently and the temperature is hitting 34 degrees Celsius. It has been a long time since I've self-harmed by the razor and so I forgot. I wore a t-shirt to the family lunch. My sister noticed and so did her boyfriend because she pointed it out. I didn't say much. She already knew I did it but didn't know that it has stayed ever since. Her boyfriend said they're gonna pay for a tattoo and so I think my mother noticed as well since she was sitting next to him and I in the middle of him and my sister. I'm glad that it wasn't purely a family lunch because there were around 13 people and I'm pretty sure no one heard a lot. DL, Doctor, I wore a t-shirt to a family dinner, completely forgetting about my self-harm scars. Edit, thanks for arguing about the metric system in the comments even after I told the person that 34 degrees Celsius is roughly 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Helped lots. We were having a nice little party at my apartment yesterday, all things were going well and all. Everybody was starting to get quite drunk. There was this one girl I've been into for like a month or so. Evening is proceeding and I'm getting closer to this girl. We are on the couch and we are watching some Instagram food videos with her. I wrap my arm around her back and she comes to my armpit. I can see her leering at me. When our eyes finally meet, she starts leaning her head so I could kiss her. As an excited young male answer to her call and we start kissing and we kissed easily for like 30 minutes. I asked her to stay at my house but I said that I don't want anything more, meaning that I wasn't looking for having sex that night, and I didn't realize until this morning that she didn't understand that it wasn't quite what it sounded like. She left when her friends left and I was left alone thinking what went wrong. Now I'm big sad and trying to make things right. DL, Doctor, had a party. Kissed my crush and told her that I don't want anything more referring as I'm not expecting sex and she misunderstood it. So the other day, we were having technical issues and I advised a client that the issue should be resolved within 2 hours. Client asks if that's 2 hours Eastern or Pacific time. I kept saying just try in 2 hours. Apparently she must have thought that it would be more time because of a time difference. Then was upset that she wouldn't get any compensation for the outage and asked to speak to a different person. With me being a manager, I'm the highest person she can talk to. So I had to file a report to have a different team reach out to her. Hopefully to tell her that she's dumb. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well, everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well, I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting, followed by the bouncer escorting her out. This happened 10 minutes ago. I went to drink water and take my medicine from my tumbler. It has a top that has an open part for the mouth hole. I keep this tumbler by my bedside and use it every night. Today while drinking water I felt something in my mouth. I pull it out on my thumb and my first thought is that it is tea leaves from not cleaning the tumbler well enough. Wrong. I take a closer look and I see what looks like legs. My second thought is that this is a fly. Look closer and I see more legs. At this point I have water in my mouth and start to feel like committing suicide because I know what it is. I go to the sink to spit it out and out comes more legs. Somehow a spider crawled up into my tumbler for a swim and died. I can spit without thinking that legs will come out. I will never use the tumbler again. I'm not afraid of spiders, but the fact that one was dead chilling in my mouth and its legs were floating around really irks me. I feel sick, but hopefully we'll forget about this tomorrow. TL, Doctor, I drank water from my tumbler without looking and I almost swallowed a spider and probably swallowed one of its legs. TLDR, brought tablet with me into bathroom, dropped it causing it to crack really badly. So today I woke up and I had to go lay a log, so like I usually do I grabbed Mount tablet so I had something to keep me busy while I did my business. I always bring it to the bathroom with me so nothing was unusual. I walked in and sat down my tablet on the bathroom counter, took off my pants and in the process I elbowed my tablet causing it to fall face first onto the tile floor with a nice thud. Now I've had this tablet for 6 years now and I've dropped it many times and it holds up pretty good and it still works as if it was new, so I didn't get too scared when I dropped it. I pick it up, turn it over and to my horror it has cracked so badly, it had spiderweb cracked and in some places it was unreadable and covered in glass dust. To say I was upset was an understatement. I've had this thing for 6 darn years, I use it way more than my phone or any other device, so this was a huge loss. Now I'm looking around the web for a screen replacement that's in my price range. I lived in a big house with my husband and baby, along with his BFF. BFF got a girlfriend months after the three of us signed the lease and settled in. Mind you, BFF's dad is our landlord. So the dad had all his and his family's things in the house before we moved in, so me, being 7+ months pregnant, my husband, and BFF all cleared the house and made it as livable as possible. Considering the dad failed to fix the power in the whole front of the house, loose wires all around the house, a balcony that's falling apart, mold in the entire basement, like glue but not so extreme, animals in the attic, a pool that looks like a swamp, etc. The three of us were perfectly fine in our rinky-dink house until this girl slithered her way in, and never signed a lease. She saw that she was dating the son of the landlord, so she went straight into action. She manipulated the situation over the course of a few months to make my husband and I seem like we don't want to take care of the house and we are lazy, even if we have a child it's apparently no excuse, and made herself seem like this angel in the dad's eyes. Never mentioned how she barged into our room at least 3 times, poured juice on my husband's computer that he built himself, stole some of my baby's things, called me and my husband out of our names, threw a candle at him, gave BFF chlamydia, and is doing things that warrant strong suspicion of her cheating on him. BFF and father roll us to just get out by the end of the week. She has tweeted anytime anything has happened and said everything she thinks I did wrong, but it's crazy to me how she can never remember what she did to provoke me, thoughtful face. So I want to remind her that if you keep messing with my Taurus ass, you will never forget your mistake. I am moved out already as of yesterday, but we have no place to stay yet. I don't want to fight her, I don't want to out her, I don't really care about that. I want to mess with her mental. Make her paranoid. Make her think that she's compromised and know that there is someone out there who knows exactly who she is and what she's done to our family. And that I have the power to get into that big head of hers, contrary to what she believes. I'm not just any mama. Posted on Tales from Retail, then found this place. Okay, so this story is not mine. This story is the one I heard being told between hairdressers while one of them was cutting my hair, my first cut post-lockdown, everyone still masked up and all. It seems that a woman had called up to ask about an extremely complex hair treatment / cut / color or whatever. I did not catch the details other than it would need to be done over several sessions over a day and was sufficiently complex that she was quoted £190. Given my haircut was £13, we gents get away with murder in the hair cutting business, this seemed like a lot of money. So the woman did not accept it at that point, but rang back later. She was complaining that some idiot had quoted her £190. Unfortunately for her, the person answering the phone was the same person who had quoted her £190. The hairdresser explained that she was the person who had quoted £190 and she did not appreciate being called some idiot and would not be doing her hair. Apparently the woman actually came in to beg her, the hairdresser, to do her hair as she was the best in town. She had thought she had phoned the other hairdresser and got quoted £190 and was referring to the other hairdresser as an idiot, but the hairdresser correctly pointed out she had not and therefore had in fact referred to the hairdresser as an idiot. Perhaps not insulting the best in town would be a good plan? She also wanted to get the hair done now without an appointment because she had talked about it on the phone. Now this hairdresser requires appointments for women's cuts, and at the moment requires online appointments for everything due to COVID, but the thought that she could be fitted in for an all-day styling without an appointment was impressively self-centered. I only caught the woman walking off and was then treated to the retelling during my haircut, but I don't think she will get getting her hair done there anytime soon. Customer experience. So, my family and I, 2 adults, infant son, teenager, stopped at a Worst Eastern last night along our 800-mile drive home. Cheap room is fine, check-in went smoothly. Night auditor was very friendly, told us about the grab-and-go breakfast. I said great and went to my room. I came down at 7:45 this morning to grab our breakfast and the morning person said they were out. Apparently she said a large group came in, some not even staying at the hotel, and grabbed everything. I asked her why she didn't say anything and she just looked at me before finally saying there's no limit to what people can take. First come first serve. Granted, I didn't handle this the best I could but my blood sugar was low. I told her thanks for letting us know the policy and for making sure an outside group didn't grab everything. She rolled her eyes and I told her to put on her mask which was hanging off her neck. We're in a mask requirement state and there's few preventative measures at this hotel. She then told me I'm not her kid. I was calm but irritated. The hotel parking lot is empty and all I wanted was an apple or something, lol. It's no big deal, but am I wrong for being irritated? As a former desk jockey I try and be understanding but this lady seemed irritated. I even bothered her, man shrugging, sick face. Added I know the front desk has been getting a lot of abuse, thus me being calm. I think I may be more irritated at her attitude though. I'm not going to complain. It's not a big deal. But what a way to make me feel welcomed. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got to deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings. The bill came out to $35. Pizza was deep dish when given toppings so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well, they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However, they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all. For the whole 50 of you who come here, this sub started based off a tale about a kind old blind man that lives on my street. Today I had a brief conversation with him on my way out for work that I feel is post-worthy. I was driving down the street heading out for work when I see Mr. Wilson standing out in his front lawn with a cup of coffee staring at a tree. Again, he is blind, so I decide to pull over and check on him. Me: "Hey Mr. Wilson, what's going on?" Mr. W: "Is that you, clock?" Me: "Sure is, mate. Everything okay this morning?" Mr. W, sure is, just enjoying the fresh air. Me, well good, the way you were just standing there I thought something might be wrong. Mr. W, laughs, yeah I suppose it might be a bit strange to see an old blind man just standing around. Me, no, not really, it's just that. Well mate, you're standing and staring right at your tree. Mr. Wilson cracks up laughing and I followed suit. We stood there and had a good laugh. Then he turns to me and says, Mr. W, care to make a wager clock? Me, depends, on what? Mr. W, how many of the neighbors do you think can come by and question me about staring at a tree, between now and whenever I go inside? Me, laugh and give a quick mental count of how many people on the street aren't total douchebags, I'd say about 3. Mr. W, well I say 5, so you head out to work and I'll stare at this tree, and when you get off someone is gonna owe someone a beer. I had a good laugh and headed off to work. When I got home I had to go back out and get a 6-pack. Turns out 6 people checked on him. TL, Dr. Blind Man stares at a tree, turns into a bet.